Good afternoon. This is Professor David Weiss, once again, speaking from our Institute for Dispute Resolution's Connecting Bridges and Borders podcast programming. We have an amazing guest speaker today from the Republic of Croatia. He is a colleague and friend of mine on many different travels and conferences that we have shared philosophical experiences as well as mediation, commonality, and all in an effort to make things truly a better world. I'm honored today to have Judge Srdan, Simac, who is on the High Commercial Court of the Republic of Croatia. He's also president of the Mediation Association in the Republic of Croatia. And his entrepreneurship side, he is also one of the founders of which is a mediation center located in Zagreb. And I've had the honor of also being there and being part of just the wonderful positive energy that that center provides in terms of what mediation should be about. Judge, welcome to our show today. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon to everybody. Thank you, David, for your nice words in introduction. I'm ready.
Well, so let's do this. Let me ask you, for many of our audience members around the world, they know a little bit about Croatia. One thing I learned from you, which was just fascinating, was when I first sat in Zagreb and I said, wow, this reminds me a little bit of Vienna. And you said, well, that's because the architect of Vienna, I guess, at one point was brought in to design and create the planning, if you will, architecturally design of the city of Zagreb. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. You know, we call Croatia as a small country for the big holiday. If we are talking about architecture of the Zagreb, we were part in not so distant history from now of Austrian Empire and then Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and a lot of towns, area, Vienna, Belgrade, Ljubljana, Prague, have very similar architecture. Yes, it's something what connect us, not divide us.
I love that word, connect us, not divide us. So let me ask you, for our audience, can you give a little bit of a background on your work, both wearing, I'll call it, three hats, really, because you wear the hat of a judge, you wear the hat of somebody that is involved in mediation through an association, and you also wear the hat of a mediation hub center that's a private organization. So certainly mediation in one aspect of your life is there, but you also have policy and procedures, rules, regulations, things that any court system would have. Can you give us a little bit of flavor from your perspective of how you see mediation, both within the context of why you grew into it and why it became such a passion and interest to you, but also wearing that hat still as a judge, why mediation plays a role even in the judiciary system?
Yes, good question, David, and some corrections there will be. So I have been a judge almost for all my professional life, and I would be sincere if I say that I was thinking that I was born to be a judge. So I really enjoyed doing that, especially these days. And at some point, I realized that doing my job on traditional way, I found that many people are not so happy with that, because you know very well from the first year of the law school, the most important lesson is that the law and justice is not something the same. And I understand that very well, but still I cannot live with that. But many people think that they can find a justice at the courts. So at some point, I actually at 2000 in Montreal, Canada, there there were a group of 15 Croatian judges, and among them I was the one. And it was kind of introduction of their judicial system. And that was for the first time I heard about mediation, and from the judge, Canadian judge. And I was totally impressed and amazed with the idea, and the idea that the judges can mediate. And it was the beginning. I found that there is something even better than applying the law on a traditional way. And from that point on I tried to connect my two loves, mediation and law and humanity, actually three of them. So at 2003, I had the first mediation training for commercial mediators. And then at the same year, we founded Croatian Mediation Association. It is actually association. We are not private organization. And as a judge, I can mediate, I can arbitrate, but not in my own cases. So I can be a part of non-profit organization. So that is the Croatian Mediation Association and its mediation center. So I was also one of the founders of mediation at courts. And it was really something, and we started with that 2006, 2007, and it was golden year of mediation at our courts years. And at the beginning we had a great success, but I have to admit that it was kind of scary to many lawyers and many judges, you know. Something what is so efficient, so humane, so with something what people like, disputants like, they are satisfied. It looks like a kind of threat to the legal profession. I know that it is not, and I see mediation as a kind of tool to wash a face of the legal profession in a positive way, and to start to offer all kind of people and organizations, not just the law as a solution, but including that, a much more suitable process and tool in which they can actively and directly be involved in the creation of own solution tailored to their needs and their lives and their um, uh, businesses. And I really, from that point, I discovered mediation. And when I expand my skills and my knowledge about that and my experience, as a person, I became a better person, better human, and a better professional, and even better judge. So I'd like to say that I'm kind of lawyer or a judge under the evolution. And I believe strongly that combination of law and non-legal human skills, mediation skills, can make any lawyer much better as a human and as a professional.
Well, I'd like to stay with that, the evolution. I think it's a really important word. especially if we sort of look at the times we're in now with a transformative period of human history that the annals of time will talk about, even after we are no longer on ourselves here. Where do you see, from a philosophical perspective, law and mediation adapting to where perhaps it once began, which was less about being litigious and who is right or wrong, but rather about how we can move forward together even when we have conflict?
Yes, yes, I like that question, and I deal with that very much. I am not the one who is just promoting and practice mediation. I'm the one who is fighting for the improvement and excellency in law uh, and legal performance. So, you know, um, it is there is a amazing possibility to adapt the law and legal institutions and legal profession to the present time. Um, you know, especially in the business, uh, but everything around, everything is changed so fast today. But law, legal institutions, and lawyers only a bit. We live somehow in some vacuum, and many of uh, uh, members of my profession, somehow they don't even aware of need to adapt, to change, and to offer uh, uh, to the public and the disputants new kind of legal service. I see the courts as public service, and I see and I feel myself as a judge as a public servant. I'm not there to be the most important person in my courtroom, but to make parties the most important person in my courtroom, because they are the only owners of the conflict, of disputes, and somehow we as lawyers in various procedures forgot that they are the center of the procedure, not we are. So the legal process is not invented because of us lawyers, but somehow at some point we took over that process, and sometimes it looks like that only purpose of the law and the legal processes is that they are invented for lawyers. And there is a kind of a trend or movement in legal profession, including judiciary. They call it procedural or participative justice. There is a famous article of Professor Tyler, Why People Obey the Law. And from that topic on, many judges started to apply non-legal skills in the courtrooms to improve their performance and to address much more to the people involved in a big business or life problem. What is the biggest problem with the traditional approach? You know, disputants are asking from the courts to solve their life or business problem. But what we offer to them, we are not solving their life or business problems. We are offering them to solve their legal problems. And believe me or not, from my point of view, legal problems do not exist in reality. We lawyers invent legal problems, and people cannot even understand what is illegal, what is illegally relevant, and everything what is illegally relevant is very often totally irrelevant for people's lives. So the procedural justice and the procedural or participative justice, which is pretty close, not similar with mediation, but it means to pay much more attention to the humans, people who are coming in the courtroom. People do not sleep uh, at least one night before they enter to the court and the courtrooms. They are faced with the corridors, with the metal detectors, with policemen, and they come to the courtroom, which is very formal, which is very strict, with the judges in robes and with the very serious faces, and only lawyers run the game, which is totally not understandable for the disputants. But everything can change with the just small gestures, especially from the judge. Judge can say at the beginning of the hearing, not just good morning or good afternoon, but how did you travel, Mr. Weiss? Uh, how have you found a parking place around the court? Because I know it is very hard. This is your seat. We invited you because you are very important in this procedure. This is your procedure. This is your dispute. This is your problem. And we are here to help you decide about the problem. And it means not just with the decision by the law. And we can all, and if you address to all of them with the names, and if you show the respect, if you explain what we are going to do, they feel much better. They feel like humans, like a respected person in a courtroom in which they feel very small, you know. And it's very important to tell them this is a strict and formal procedure, and we are going to talk about something what is legal relevant. Legally relevant. If I stopped you, do not be surprised, please. That means that you are talking about something what is legal, what is not legal relevant for us. And when we start and ask them, do you understand? Do you have more questions? And then we start, and judge and lawyers collect everything what is legally relevant. And then that is the right time for judge to ask the disputant, Mr. Weiss, now we have collected everything what is legally relevant for us lawyers, but now is the right moment for you to tell us what is relevant for you, but we didn't ask you. This is something amazing moment in the life of the disputant, because they expect from judges to tell their stories, but we not allow them because we ask them only what we think it is relevant for the law. So you don't need to be a mediator, but you need to be with the human approach to another human. And in that sense, if you show respect, if you give the voice, if you give them empathy, and if you tell them, I'm here for you to help you, if it is possible, they feel respected, heard, understood, and they will respect my decision if the decision is only option, and they will respect even court, the system, the law, and they will be satisfied because everything was fair. we treated them fairly, and they felt recognized and respected by the authority.
I think, Judge, what you're saying is so important. And when you first opened up your statement, you talked about the vacuum, this concept of
Vacuum, yes.
what's in the vacuum. And what I'm hearing you say is that if the vacuum doesn't have some flexibility, some humanistic flexibility to it, irrespective of what may be necessary in terms of some procedures and formalities, without the vacuum including humanistic characteristics, then is there really justice? Or even further, as John Rawls talks about, is there really truly liberty and opportunity for all within a greater society in which a judiciary is to be the protector, if you will, the shield for the justice? But if the vacuum does not have a humanistic element to it, even if they're doing the best they can under the confines or parameters of the rules and the procedures, are you jeopardizing through justice, liberty, and opportunity within a society?
Yes, yes, it is something like common response of discussion I offered you. So, you know, when we are talking about the justice, this is a huge topic, and there are a lot of theories and practice about it. From my point of view, justice is a very subjective, and there is no objective justice. You cannot offer justice in most of the cases if you offer just the law. Justice could be served only if you can find justice for both sides. If we find the justice only for the one side, it is very hard to talk about justice. We are talking about the law. So there is a famous quote, Eisenhower: peace and justice is two sides of the same coin. There is no peace without justice. There is no justice without peace. And what we do as the courts, which are so important part of any society, we are offering artificial peace. We are making order. We are some kind of fighter who extinguished a fire, but not make a peace. You know, we do not work on their relation. We do not educate them how to continue with their relation, because my judgment, my verdict, I don't live with my verdict. Only them live with them, and police do not keep them from the consequences of my verdict, because they need to live with the fact and the feeling that some of them lose and some of them win, and it is always the end of the relation, and it's always a never-ending fight. But most of the decisions ruled by the court is usually the end of fight, because they are afraid of the power of the state which is behind the judge. But in the reality, in their life, they didn't get too many help with the verdict, especially in cases where relation is broken. Family, business, neighbor, because I cannot fix the problem by the law or by my decision. I can help them or fix the problem only if I allow them to be involved in finding the solution which is most suitable for them, not for me. And in spite of that fact that we need the law, we need order, we need courts, and many cases will be run only by the courts, but many cases need not just courts, need another tool like mediation, negotiation, and new skills. And from my point of view, the role of the judge should be quite a new one. The judge responsibility for the parties do not stop at the moment they file the suit. My responsibility is to help them find the best solution, even to help them negotiate or make peaceful solution if it is possible, or refer them to mediation. But you cannot just refer them to mediation. You need to explain them why it is so good for them to not be part of the legal decision. And I always say to them, this is my job. I will do that if you ask from me. I can rule about your life if you want, and it's my duty, but there is a better way for you because of your long-term relation, because of your business, because of your neighboring, because you are part of the family, because you have children, and you have to continue with your lives, even with my decision. So the idea is that you need to find your own decision, which is suitable for you, not for me. And there is a famous anecdote. It's not anecdote, it's a real thing from the courtroom. You know, there was a family dispute, divorce dispute with the divorced couple with the minor kid, a son. And they were fighting about custody of their son. And they fight it a lot. They screamed, they blame each other and claim who is better parent, and their lawyers fight too to each other. And at some point the judge said, stop, you are going, you were out of how to say any kind of real polite and kind human behavior. I need, and I ask you to answer me to one question, both of you, mother and the father. And he asked the mother, Mrs. I don't know, Perich, I'm curious, do you love your child? Of course, Judge, I love him. I would give my life for my child. And Mr. Perich, you as a father, do you love your child? Judge, what kind of question is it? Of course, I love him. And Judge said, okay, I realized that you as a parent love extremely your son. But me, I don't love him at all. I don't even know him. So why you put the destiny of your child in my hands? They ask for the recess, they go out, they make agreement, and they come to judge to decide how they want, not how judges want. But to do that, they need help. If I continue to perform and act as a traditional judge, and my colleague lawyers act as traditional lawyers, nothing will change. until the moment they start to stop using our services.
You know, it goes right back to this amazing example and story. One of the things I always admire about you, Judge, is your humanistic element and the symbolism of the vacuum, and how the vacuum is so important both to the integrity of a society, the integrity of someone's life, how the judiciary and its legal system and those that are advocating within it need to perhaps take another look and reevaluate what was the advocation of the best interest of a process, a rule, or client, and look at things from the perspective of what inspired me at your mediation center on one evening, where as you walk in, you have many different phraseologies from the past that promote the concept of what mediation really is. And one that I always come back to is Rumi. And Rumi was a very famous Persian poet of the 12th century. And where he says, there's a field and I will meet you there. And when you spoke,
between right and wrong.
Yes, between right and wrong, there's a field and I will meet you there. And the question it becomes from this conversation today is once they're on the field, all of the other assistants, those that can help, whether it's a judge, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's a neutral as a mediator, what is their true perspective in the humanistic element of what's supposed to happen on that field between that right and between that wrong?
Yeah. So there is a thought, opinion that that side of the human nature, being right or being wrong, that sense is kind of a failure of our minds, because there is no anything which is 100% right and 100% wrong, because all of us have own perspective, own perception, own look, own thoughts, own opinions, and all of them are subjective. And actually all of us are right, you know. And the idea is not who is right, who is wrong, but what we are going to do with two righteous approach. So I have right to be right or to be wrong. And the idea is not to fight about who is right, who is wrong. Whenever we are in a competition about who is right, who is wrong, we are on the way to the conflict, who is going to escalate, and you cannot control it. When we start to think differently and try to go outside of our heads, and instead of fighting with you that you are not right or that you are wrong, there is a simple approach. I can say to you, David, I realize that you think differently than me, and your opinion is different. So because I care about you, I care about our relation, because we are family, or we are in the same project, or we are business partners, I would like to suggest you something. I would like to listen first you. So please, I would like to listen as much as possible your reasons. Why do you think differently than me? Until the moment I will understand them as you are. It is an amazing moment. You cannot find the person who will tell you, I'm not ready to do it. but immediately they will take that chance to talk about their views and their reasons. And
You know,
yes?
no, I was going to say, in order to do that, I would think that the field must have the grass cut and shorter to clear through the weeds, the noise, the things that cloud one's judgment, right? That perhaps in clearing those fields that one will meet one on and getting rid of the noise, getting rid of the other sort of opinions, things that have developed into that conflict with the help of others who look through the vacuum in a way that will help those people with their conflicts find some pathway where the sun is shining back onto those fields again.
Exactly. You know, we both are fans of mediation. In mediation, it is not at all important who is right, who is wrong, who is guilty, who is responsible, because there is no conflict without participation of conflicted parties. You know, the conflict is always choice. So, like dance, if one side decide to not dancing, there is no dancing. If you do not decide to jump to the conflict, there is no conflict. So, but if it happened, you cannot solve it by the way which caused the conflict. And the wrong side of the, not all cases in court, but in cases where relation is ruined, is to approach to the conflicted people with the intention to find the guilty one and the responsible one, the winner, the loser. And in mediation, the amazing side of mediation is because in the front of the parties, there is no person, third side, who is going to decide instead of them. And now, in front of judge, it is very hard, if it is a traditional judge, to start discussion about negotiation, about the settlement, because people and lawyers know that judge is listening, and everything what he or she hears can use in the verdict if they do not reach agreement. But there is no such a thing in mediation, because you have a person who just help you find a solution, not decide about it. They are open, they are free to start to exchange information each of them hold for themselves. In litigation, everybody hold information which is not in favor of one side. They not just hide, they lie. And the judge is the less informed person in any case, and he or she have to decide about the case as a less informed person, because the burden of proof and the truth is on side of the parties. But in mediation, 50% of information is of each side, and if they can have opportunity to exchange them, at some point they have 100% of information, more information, better decision, better settlement. And those parties in mediations are reaching their own solution, they feel it like a justify, like a justice, own justice, and they execute them voluntarily and immediately. Many of my verdicts in Croatia do not execute it. They do not execute voluntarily, because I force someone to do something, and they don't want to do it without of force of the state. But when parties reach mediation by themselves, they execute them, immediately. And this is the very important point or a key. It is very hard or almost impossible that you can get a justice from the court, state court. If you are a disputant, you can get real justice only from the other side in dispute.
Well, Judge, I want to thank you for your insight today. For me, I think the takeaway, besides the most amazing symbolisms that you've provided between the court and what we've sort of segued into understanding mediation, from the vacuum concept to this last piece, this last element that you concluded with, which is about choice. One of the concrete things I heard you say in choice is about self-determination.
Exactly.
It's the rights of the individuals themselves through choice to be able to resolve their issues on that field, as Rumi said. And it's that self-determination that also projects, as John Rawls talks about, the ability for liberty and opportunity to exist for all. And through that prism, and through that vacuum of justice, we may be able to have a better and more improved world to come. I want to thank you, Judge, for being part of this conversation today, and for our audience and our viewers to hear what I will call a more humanistic approach in a period of time globally that humanity is facing unique challenges to all that are similar and yet different. Perhaps through the conflict, through the various opinions, through the various interests and stakeholders, we can find more ways to come to that field and find a way through choice and self-determination and a humanistic part of the vacuum to build a better world to come. Judge, thank you again for being part of this show today.
Thank you very much, David. It was my pleasure. I hope that that kind of vacuum that we can make a hole in it, and that hole that will be bigger and bigger, and that we can connect or combine the best from different worlds, from law, mediation, and humanity. And I agree, in that case, we can really make our world better.
Once again, this is Professor David Weiss speaking from the Institute for Dispute Resolution and its Connecting Bridges and Borders Spotify and podcast program series from around the world. Until next time, I bid adieu. Take care.